Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to News 9 Live. I'm Kabir Naqvi and we're bringing you this special broadcast of top stories from our studios here in the national capital. We will touch upon on the 48th day of the West Asian conflict between Israel and Hamas. We will bring you the top global and international stories as well. And like we promised here at News 9, we make it a grave significance and important point of putting out global climate stories for you. But first and foremost, what's happening back at home in terms of domestic development, in terms of political chess pieces, how are they moving ahead of the counting that's going to take place on the 3rd of December, and of course the polls to Rajasthan and Telangana that are slated to take place later this month. But first and foremost, going across to Uttarkashi, where the tunnel rescue operations are still currently underway. Authorities are tirelessly working to rescue the 41 workers that are trapped inside the partially collapsed tunnel in Uttarkashi. Now, the Additional Secretary of Technical, Road and Transport, Mahmood Ahmed, he has indicated that there's an anticipation of a big news that is on the horizon. But first and foremost, let's take a look at the latest that's coming in on the rescue operations at the Uttarkashi tunnel, where 41 workers are trapped. Take a look at this. A senior official has hinted that there's some significant news that is expected either tonight or tomorrow regarding the Uttarakhand tunnel rescue operations. It's almost like a situation where you say, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, take a look at this. About 67% of auger drilling, which is a crucial part of the rescue process, has been completed. A horizontal pipe has been successfully inserted up to 45 meters out of the total 57 meters that is needed. So just about 12 more meters left to go. An extra 880 millimeter pipe has been pushed several meters into the rubble now, indicating further progress in creating these pathways. Now the state of Jharkhand plans to airlift its workers once they are safely evacuated from the tunnel. The same is going to happen for Odisha, and all the state workers, all the states are actually in touch with all the local authorities over there as well. Meanwhile, a 15-man NDRF team has been enlisted for the rescue mission once the trapped workers are out, because the light can be seen at the end of the tunnel. Any hour now, we're going to get the good news. This, according to the experts, were there. Now, with a paramount focus on ensuring the safety and prompt evacuation of the 41 workers, the government is escalating its rescue operations at the tunnel facility. Specifically, attention is directed towards a 2-kilometer section of the tunnel where concrete work has been completed to fortify the safety measures for the workers. In this secured section of the tunnel, essential services are operational. Both electricity and water supply are functioning. Pictures on your screens from this very morning as the tunnel rescue operations continue at the Silkyara tunnel collapse site. Provisions such as cooked food and medicines are being delivered inside as well. Antidepressants, multivitamins, you name it. Solid food, non-solid food, it's all been given to the trapped workers. And an endoscopic camera was also put into that tunnel, where day before we got visuals of the trapped survivors, the trapped workers, for the first time sending really positive messages and signals to the people outside, especially the anxiety-ridden families of the trapped workers over there. Visuals on your screens from this very morning, even as we're bringing you live pictures of the tunnel rescue process. About a 1,300 meter, 1.3 kilometer pathway has been made from this tunnel site to the top of the tunnel, from where vertical drilling will take place. It is already underway, and to the left sides of your pictures, if you could just see that there's a small temple that's been made over there as well. A seer over there offering his prayers and worshipping. All the local deities are being pleased as well to ensure that all the trapped workers come out as soon as possible and safely and in good health.
Hello. Morning, sir. Morning. कैसे हैं आप?
These are live pictures on your screens that you can see as a seer, a pandit, a pujari, offering prayers early in the morning right at the Silkyara tunnel site for the safety and the health of all the trapped workers inside there. And this is a common ritual. Everybody who's going there, everybody who reaches there does offer their obeisance at this particular makeshift temple. Well, it seems like this temple is going to stick around, maybe be converted into a full-blown shrine after the success of this rescue operation. Meanwhile, endoscopic visuals that we'll just put out for you, where we saw the trapped workers for the first time. An endoscopic camera that was put in the small pipes that were inserted into the rubble. Visuals from day before yesterday, where you could see all the trapped workers wearing their hard hats. The hard hats, it seems, haven't left them. They seem to be in good health. Everybody's standing. Nobody's sitting down, lying down. There's no stomach issues. There were a couple of respiratory and breathing problems, but the doctors are more worried about the mental trauma and the post-traumatic stress disorder that is likely in such scenarios. It is, in fact, the 12th day, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget, more than 200 hours have passed since the tunnel site collapsed.
44 मीटर तक पाइप जा चुका है, 12 मीटर और जाना है।
सर, क्या कुछ दिक्कत आ रही है यहाँ पर? ऑब्स्टेकल भी बताया जा रहा है।
सिर्फ एक ही दिक्कत मैं सभी को बार बार बता चुका हूँ कि भाई वहाँ पे कुछ स्टील के टुकड़े आगे हैं टनल में, मलबे में, जो स्टील का ही, जो टनल का ही पार्ट थे, वो मलबे में पड़े हैं। उनको वहां तक पहुंच गए, फिर उससे वापिस आए। अब उनको काटा जा रहा है। मेरे ख्याल से 11-12 बजे के करीब ये थोड़ा मशीन इंडिकेशन दी कि आगे कोई ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन है। देखिए, मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि भी 1 घंटे में कट जाना चाहिए। उसके बाद 5 घंटे में 2 पाइप पुश हो जाने चाहिए। सवेरे 8 बजे तक ऑपरेशन शुरू होगा।
Visuals on your screens of the rescue process from the 12th day. Over 200 hours have passed. Meanwhile, my colleague Nivriti Mohan, she's made her way at the mouth of the Silkyara tunnel, bringing us live reports and timely updates of exactly what is happening over there. And let's not forget, the Prime Minister's office has also in full swing taken over the rescue process. The Ministry of Road Transport and National Highways, the Union Minister for that, Nitin Gadkari, he was there, took the on-site inspection with the Chief Minister. Everybody's trying to do whatever they can. Nivriti Mohan, my colleague, she's filed in a report. Take a look at this for better understanding of what exactly is happening over there.
Right now we are at the site where 40 workers have been stranded for many days inside the tunnel. This is Silkyara Barkot tunnel, a 4.5 kilometers long tunnel which they were working inside, and the workers, around 41 workers, are still stranded inside, and there are efforts being made by various agencies present here to rescue these workers as soon as possible. You can see the BRO guys here, the police guys here, and all the agencies that are working here to rescue these workers are present. Now, as far as we have spoken to the officials here, we came to know that the agencies and organizations, they are working on 6 plans right now, out of which the most efficient plans looks the front face of the tunnel, in which they are using the auger machines, and pipes are being inserted to get the workers out of the tunnel through these pipes. And this plan is being worked from the front side of the tunnel, which you can see on our camera. The other option which is there is the right wall of the tunnel, right side of the tunnel, on which Army and RVNN, the Rail Vikas Nigam, they are working together, and they are planning to drill a hole from the right side of the tunnel, right wall of the tunnel, and reach the workers inside the tunnel. The third plan is the vertical drilling that will be done from the top of the mountain to reach workers inside. This is being done by BRO and SJVN. For this, 1.2 kilometers long road has been made to reach the spot from where the drilling will be done. This road had been made by BRO, and it is complete. Drilling point at minimum overburden, where the minimum overburden is there. Drilling point has been selected at that point. Sir, इस वक्त तक क्या काम हो चुका है, न सिर्फ बीआरओ का बल्कि अलग अलग ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस जो इसमें इन्वॉल्व हैं रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में, उनका कितना काम हो चुका है?
एक्चुअली बीआरओ को जो प्राइमरी टास्क दिया गया था, वो 2 अप्रोच रोड बनाने को दिया गया था। एक सिलक्यारा साइड पे हमें 1.2 किलोमीटर का अप्रोच रोड दिया गया था। उसके बाद वर्टिकल ड्रिलिंग एसजेवीएन को करना था, सो दैट कि अगर जो हॉरिजॉन्टल ड्रिलिंग्स हो रही हैं वो अगर सक्सेसफुल नहीं हुई तो एटलीस्ट उनको वर्टिकली हम लिफ्ट कर सकें। तो विद इन 48 आवर्स बीआरओ हैज़ कंप्लीटेड इट और वी हैव हैंडेड ओवर इट टू SJVN डे बिफोर टुमारो यस्टरडे। एंड इसके बाद अब हम लोग बड़कोट साइड में अपने को कंसंट्रेट कर रहे हैं। बड़कोट साइड में ONGC हैज़ टू डू दी वर्टिकल ड्रिलिंग। उसके लिए हमारी रिकी सर्वे ऑलरेडी इन प्रोसेस है और टुडे वी विल बी कंप्लीटिंग आवर रिकी सर्वे। वी हैव ऑलरेडी इंडक्टेड द रिसोर्सेज। हमारे डोजर्स एक्सकेवेटर्स ऑलरेडी वहाँ पहुँच चुके हैं। 4 to 5 किलोमीटर्स की रोड वहाँ बननी है, वो भी हम लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं अर्लीस्ट पॉसिबल उस रोड को बना सकें, सो दैट कि अगर बाकी सक्सेसफुल नहीं हुआ तो ONGC वर्टिकल ड्रिलिंग करके उनको लिफ्ट कर सके।
आपसे बात हो रही थी तो सर आप 5 ऑप्शंस की बात कर रहे थे, एक्सक्लूडिंग द ऑप्शन जो अभी मेन ऑप्शन है आपकी फ्रंट से, तो वो 5 ऑप्शंस क्या क्या हैं? इसको भी इंक्लूड कर दीजिएगा। 6 ऑप्शंस हैं
ये। इसमें एक तो साइड ड्रिफ्ट बना रही है जो आर्मी विद द हेल्प ऑफ RVNL बना रही है, जो राइट वॉल ऑफ द टनल से उसको अंदर करने की कोशिश की जा रही है। आगर से ड्रिलिंग की जा रही है। पहले 900 mm की पाइप डाली गई थी, लेकिन क्वार्टजाइट आने के कारण उस ड्रिलिंग में कुछ प्रॉब्लम आई, तो नाउ दे आर टेकिंग 800 mm पाइप।
राइट वॉल की बात कर रहे हैं?
नहीं, जो सेकंड ऑप्शन, जो फर्स्ट ऑप्शन है, आगरिंग जिसे कर रहे हैं वो वाली है। इसके बाद आर्मी इज डूइंग सेकंड ऑप्शन, वो साइड ड्रिफ्ट कर रही है राइट वॉल से। थर्ड ऑप्शन इज वर्टिकल ड्रिलिंग विच वी हैव ऑलरेडी गिवन टू द SJVN। SJVN हैज ऑलरेडी स्टार्टेड दैट। फोर्थ ऑप्शन
वर्टिकल थर्ड आप बता रहे हो, उसमें BRO और SJVN।
हाँ बिल्कुल। फोर्थ ऑप्शन फ्रॉम बरकोट एंड भी एक ड्रिफ्टिंग शुरू हो गई है, सो दैट कि उस साइड से जो 400 मीटर का हमारा गैप बचा हुआ है उसको हम पेंट्रेट करके और ले सकें। और फिफ्थ ऑप्शन में ONGC का है कि वो वर्टिकल ड्रिलिंग करेंगे और उसको अप्रोच रोड बना के BRO को देना है।
कौन सी ऑप्शन ऐसी है जिसमें आपको सबसे ज़्यादा उम्मीद लग रही है इस वक्त?
जो हॉरिजॉन्टल ड्रिलिंग हो रही है आगर वाली, वो सबसे ज़्यादा उम्मीद है कि वो अर्लीस्ट पॉसिबल मींस वही है।
And so that's the latest that we're picking up. Nivriti speaking to the local authorities. All those 5-point action plan very clearly made understood to all the people out there. We're going to approach the tunnel from both the sides. That is the Silkyara mouth, the Barkot mouth. We will approach it right from the top with the vertical bore, and of course from the sides as well. From the side portions, a horizontal drilling to get to the workers. But it seems like the Silkyara mouth seems to be the most likely from where all of them will in fact come out. Well, now take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Just for your perusal, putting it out there on the big wall, and we'll put them out on the full frame for easy consumption as well. This is the tunnel collapse site that you can see. There is a vertical drilling that's happening by the ONGC, and there's a vertical drilling that's happening by the SJVNL towards the left sides of your pictures. That's the 2-kilometer proposed tunnel length. Now 41 workers are situated towards the center point, but more closer to the Silkyara mouth. 900 millimeter pipes that you can see are already being pushed into the rubble, into the collapse site. That's the debris field through which the pipes are being pushed in, and about 10 more meters of pushing is left to do, which is why all the authorities and the experts are saying that we could expect good news anytime soon. The Silkyara end is what you're seeing. Now, just to make you understand where this is and what is the length of the tunnel, where exactly is this tunnel? That's Dandalgaon on the other end. Silkyara mouth is to the south of your screens, and the portion that you see blocked by debris, is towards the center, but then again a little closer towards Silkyara site, which is why authorities think, and the tunneling experts on the ground, they think and they feel that Silkyara is going to be the point from where the rescue process is going to finally become successful. This is the final leg of the rescue operations, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the rescue plan to evacuate the trapped workers. Number one is, of course, you're going to drill through them. Number two is going to put these pipes through which the trapped workers can then come out. Take a look at this. This is the particular step through which the trapped workers are going to make their way out of the tunnel, the debris, and it needs to happen quickly because time is of grave significance in this particular situation. So we told you the latest updates. We showed you all the 5 action plans. Our reporter is on the ground, and you can count on News 9 for bringing you all the latest details on this, even as we're getting live pictures from the tunnel collapse site. Now the local authorities and the police, it seems, have made their way there. Jharkhand has already made arrangements to airlift their states' workers that are trapped inside the Silkyara tunnel complex. Light at the end of the tunnel, as they say it, and anytime soon, according to experts. Good news either tonight or tomorrow morning. Well, we'll keep our ears and eyes on the ground in terms of what's coming out of Uttarkashi. But shifting our focus here, in a tragic incident, 2 officers and 2 Jawans have lost their lives in an ongoing encounter with terrorists in Rajouri area of Jammu and Kashmir. The deployment of troops, including special forces, was prompted by the intelligence about the movement of a terrorist group in the region. Now, monitoring the situation closely are the 16 corps commanders and the Romeo Force commander of the Rashtriya Rifles. The encounter broke out between terrorists and the security forces in Rajouri district's Bajimal area near Bravi in Kalakot Tehsil on Wednesday morning, after Indian Army and Jammu and Kashmir police acted on an intelligence input and launched a cordon and search operation in the area. And whilst we're at it, let's also talk about the latest air quality index. The AQI in Delhi remained in the severe category. Additionally, the Delhi government has declared restrictions on the entry of buses from other states if the Graded Response Action Plan, the GRAP, reaches its 4th stage, which was recently introduced, then it was revoked, and they're talking about a reintroduction again. Now, in this final phase of the central government's air pollution control strategy, access for buses, except for those running on CNG and the BS4 diesel, BSVI diesel, beg your pardon, and electric buses will be regulated in the capital. Stage 4 represents the conclusive stage of the Graded Response Action Plan, even as you're looking at visuals from the India Gate, from the Kartavya Path on this very morning. AQI in the severe category. Will GRAP 4 be reintroduced? That's the big question. After hefty rapping by the Supreme Court on the Delhi government's knuckles with how they've dealt with the ongoing pollution, many people, and especially citizens, questioning why the Delhi government revoked the GRAP 4 plan if it had to be reintroduced later. The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being. Next up is our full-blown segment on the 48th day of the Israel-Hamas war. The war between Israel and Hamas, now that it's entered its 48th day, this is the latest that we're picking up from the war front. Take a look at this. A senior Israeli official has said that the planned exchange of some Palestinians held in Israeli prisons for Israeli hostages in Hamas has been delayed until at least Friday. Meanwhile, Israeli citizens appealed to Supreme Court to block Palestinian prisoners' release. Now, we are winning and we will continue to fight until a complete victory. This is what Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said during a briefing as he vowed to resume the Israeli offensive against Hamas as soon as the truce ends. Meanwhile, Israeli forces continued attacking across the strip from land, sea and air ahead of the temporary truce. You could see black and thick plumes of smoke above the Gaza skyline, well, whatever's left of the Gaza skyline. And in this particular war, over 14,100 Palestinians have been killed, with over 5,840 being child casualties. In terms of casualties on the other side, Israeli Defense Forces have suffered 69 casualties ever since its ground operations began in the Gaza Strip on the 27th of October. And take a look at this. We're bringing you pictures of the Gaza skyline. It seems there is a delay in the ceasefire and the hostage deal in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. According to an Israeli source speaking to Haaretz, there will be no cessation of hostilities in Gaza until a finalized timeline for the agreement with Hamas is established. Several other media portals as well. One of the renowned dailies and media portals, the BBC, is also reporting a delay in the ceasefire, originally scheduled to commence at 10 a.m. Gaza time on Thursday, with the release of hostages anticipated shortly after. But an Israeli government source informed the BBC about the postponement. Furthermore, an Israeli official speaking to the news agency AFP early on Thursday emphasized that there would be no halt in the fighting between Israel and Hamas, at least before Friday. Now, this announcement aligns with Israeli National Security Advisor Zachi Hanegbi's statement on Wednesday night, asserting that none of the hostages seized in the Hamas attacks on southern Israel will be released before Friday. It was earlier being expected that the first hostage release will happen on Thursday. Now it seems it's not going to happen at least until Friday. Neither the release or exchange of hostages and the Palestinian prisoners, nor will the fighting be paused before Friday. Several quarters have moved to Supreme Court as well to block this particular deal. Is that a reason for this? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. The exact reason is yet to be ascertained, but nothing's happening before Friday, so it seems like IDF's ground operations in Gaza will continue. Those are visuals of the Gaza skyline. Well, like I've been saying, whatever's left of it, complete and absolute ruins. Multiple blasts sounded over the Gaza skyline as plumes of smoke drifted over the embattled enclave ahead of the start of a truce between Israel and Hamas. Now, the Israel-Hamas deal was reached early on Wednesday for the freeing of 50 hostages held in Gaza in exchange for the release of 150 Palestinian prisoners. That will be repeated later this month. Now, a part of the current deal, which is due to begin on Thursday, or well was, Israel will pause its almost 7-week-old Gaza war to enable both the staggered recovery of the 50 hostages, all of them women and children, and the entry of aid for Palestinians.
Israel and Hamas have agreed on a 4-day truce, according to both sides, the first in the war. The Israeli government voted in the early hours of Wednesday to back the deal, which would allow the release of 50 women and children hostages held in Gaza. It also mentioned that for every 10 extra captives released, they would extend the pause in fighting by another day. In exchange, Hamas said, Israel would also free 150 Palestinian women and children imprisoned there and allow hundreds of aid trucks to enter Gaza. According to Israeli tallies, Hamas militants took about 240 hostages when its fighters surged into southern Israel on October 7th and killed 1,200 people. To date, Hamas has released 4 captives. Late on Tuesday, the armed wing of the Palestinian militant group Islamic Jihad, which also took part in the Hamas raid, said one of its Israeli hostages had died. Since the October attack, Gazan authorities say Israeli bombardments have flattened large parts of the Hamas-ruled enclave, killed more than 13,000 people and displaced about 2.3 million others. Before the deal was announced, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said US President Joe Biden's intervention had helped to improve the tentative agreement so that it included more hostages and fewer concessions. But Netanyahu said Israel's broader mission had not changed. In a message at the start of the cabinet meeting on the deal, he said, "We are at war and we will continue the war until we achieve all our goals to destroy Hamas, return all our hostages, and ensure that no entity in Gaza can threaten Israel."
So the hostage deal, it seems now, has been delayed. It's not going to happen before Friday. Neither is the pause in fighting going to take place before Friday. But how was this deal arrived at? Well, take a look at this. This is how the hostage release deal was clinched by the United States, Israel, Qatar, and Hamas. Now, Qatar contacted United States after hostages were taken on the 7th of October after Hamas invaded southern Israel. Qatar requested the formation of a small team of advisors to negotiate the release of hostages. The team, called the Cell, began secret negotiations, and the negotiations witnessed personal diplomatic engagements by US President Joe Biden. Now, the United States' president was constantly in touch with the Emir of Qatar and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. As negotiations progressed, Qatar and Israel demanded utmost secrecy on the matter. Now, there was initial success. And what was that initial success? Well, we'll tell you about it. Biden traveled to Tel Aviv on the 18th of October to hold talks with Netanyahu. The release of hostages was the central focus of the discussions. On the 23rd of October, the White House team helped to secure release of 2 American hostages. Now, the return of the 2 Americans proved it was possible to secure the release of hostages. An intensified process started to get more hostages out of Hamas's captivity. And Joe Biden saw an opportunity to gain the release of a large number of hostages and engage over the next 3 weeks in detailed talks with the stakeholders. And this is how the Hamas's deal, the hostage deal, got concluded. Demands were made that Hamas produce the list of hostages in its custody. Under the agreement, women and children would be freed first, and Palestinian prisoners from Israeli jails will also be released. Israelis insisted that Hamas should ensure that all women and children should come out in the first phase. Hamas said it could guarantee the return of 50 hostages in the first phase. And US President Joe Biden called the Emir of Qatar and demanded to know the details of hostages in Hamas's custody. Hamas produced details of the 50 hostages to be released in the first phase. And Joe Biden, in a November 14th call, urged Benjamin Netanyahu to take the deal, to which Netanyahu agreed. Now, talks have stalled as communications went dark in Gaza. Biden called the Emir of Qatar and told him this was the last chance to broker the deal. And Emir pledged to apply pressure to close the deal with Hamas. The agreement was now structured for women and children to be freed first, according to Reuters. And the spokesperson of the military wing of the Israeli Defense Forces, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, he said that the Israeli army has revealed a reinforced tunnel located beside the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza on the 22nd of November. Now, the tunnel, about 6.5 feet high, was equipped with facilities such as a bathroom, a kitchen, and an air-conditioned meeting room. According to the army, this tunnel served as a command post for the Hamas fighters. Accessible through an outdoor shaft in the hospital complex ground, the area was once densely populated with Palestinian civilians, allegedly used as human shield by Hamas during times of conflict. Daniel Hagari on your screens to explain better.
In the Shifa hospital compound, we're underneath the ground. We are approximately between the Qatarian building is above us, and this is the way to the street, meaning this is a way that goes outside from the hospital. We are talking about a tunnel which is more than this, only this specific area is more than 300 meters of a tunnel. So this area goes directly outside of the hospital, approximately to one of the areas outside, maybe a mosque, maybe an apartment, and it's blocked. It's blocked and sealed. They knew that we were going to come here more than a month ago, and they sealed it. And now we're going to see the infrastructure of the tunnel. This tunnel is a complex tunnel. It's not the ones that we know. It's more convenient for long living, like you have toilets and you have rooms that were built in order to contain people. But this room is an operational room that had communication with electricity provided from the sources of the hospital, meaning the hospital is providing electricity. This room was evacuated and all the gear was evacuated. I guess it was evacuated when they knew or understand that we're going to enter into Shifa Hospital. You can see how long it is. The warriors in front of us are going inside the tunnel. You can see a small kitchen. So it will provide them food, water, etc. All these facilities of water and food are coming from the hospital, meaning they're using the hospital infrastructures. They're using the hospital infrastructures in order to provide this terror mechanism to stay alive and survive. I want to show you more rooms. More rooms. This is a room, where you can sleep, eat, make command control. It also has an air conditioning. This air conditioning goes above the hospital. One of the reasons that allows us to understand this complex is that we found the engine of the air conditioner, of course, outside, next to the Qatarian compound, inside the hospital, full electricity. The gear that was inside here was evacuated before we entered, but look at the ceiling. This is not just a regular tunnel. This is a high facility compound. Also more toilets here. Of course, they tried to seal it. They tried to seal it also with sand and other components that we will not be able to enter here. We evacuated the sand. We open up those entrance so we can go in, but they tried to ruin this tunnel in order for us not to be able to enter. You can see the stairs here going down. Electricity from all over the sides are electricity. All this electricity compound, all this electricity gear, of course, comes out from the hospital. The hospital provides, in that sense, electricity to this terror mechanism of the tunnel. This is a unique signature of the arches. The arches are a unique technique by Hamas, building the tunnels. It's something that was designed in the last 15 years. This unique, every area that we see arches are, we understand that it assembles, that it has a tunnel next to it. This is how we revealed some of the tunnels, so it's a unique structure of Hamas tunnels in the last 15 years. The warriors, it took time to make sure that this area is not booby-trapped. We were worried that it was booby-trapped. Cleaning this area, opening it so we can go inside, was a huge task for the forces of the special units that were here.
זה לאן לוקח? זה לרחוב? זה לרחוב?
Where the warrior is standing here, it goes directly to the street, meaning it again goes out from the hospital to the north side of the hospital, where we found another tunnel which has an elevator like the Rantisi tunnel, and it goes up and goes out. So it's all a tunnel systems that ends in the hospital. It's a mechanism of a tunnel system that ends in the hospital. Now we're going to turn left and go out again in the hospital just to see the size of the tunnel. This is the blast. This is the blast door, the one that we opened, where we have seen in the movie that we reached to the blast door. We took us time to open it. We were making sure it's not booby-trapped. These blast doors allows them to prevent blasts by our Air Force, meaning it can maintain the preservation of parts of the tunnel to be protected, and also it's part of fighting. So if an enemy reaches to the door, you can fight him through the door. So it's a really sophisticated mechanism in that sense, designed to fight. And all this mechanism above us is a hospital. Above us, patient, wounded, doctors, all being a human shield for this tunnel system here at Shifa Hospital. The electricity you see is the electricity that provide the communication, the command and control, meaning from those tunnels you can command and control all the terror mechanism waging war outside in Gaza. This is why all the battalion's commander, all the senior commander terrorists came here to command their operation, went outside, went back to the hospital to do command and control.
בפתח יציאה, אי אפשר לעלות מפה כי נסקנו את הסולם, אבל אפשר לתת תמונה של הסולם.
This is the way out with the stairs. This way out, when we entered with the bulldozer, all the sand fell down. So it's not now it's not available to go out. But we will show you, because you remember the movie that we showed with the drone.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he convened a press conference late on Wednesday. Netanyahu says Red Cross is going to be allowed to visit the remaining hostages. And the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he was talking during a press briefing. He spoke about the Red Cross, but he also said that Israel was winning and would continue the war until it achieved complete victory.
המתווה שהושג לא יכלול שחרור רוצחים, והוא כן כולל הסכמה של נציגי הצלב האדום, לביקורים יותר נכון של נציגי הצלב האדום אצל החטופים והעברת תרופות אליהם. אני שמעתי שיש מי שכופר על זה. הצלב האדום אמר שהוא לא שמע, אז הנה הסעיף המפורש. יתאפשר לצלב האדום לבקר את יתר החטופים ולספק להם תרופות נחוצות, ואני מצפה שהצלב האדום יעשה את העבודה שלו. אנחנו מנצחים ונמשיך להילחם עד לניצחון המוחלט.
But amidst the ongoing Israeli conflict, the residents of Gaza are grappling with fuel shortages, prompting a return to traditional methods for baking bread and preparing limited food supplies. With electricity in short supply, the people of Gaza are increasingly relying on traditional clay ovens. However, the scarcity of resources, especially for staple food like bread production, remains a significant challenge in the camps. Pictures on your screens of how the clay pots are back in fashion. Take a look at this. The Executive Director of United Nations Women, Seema Sami Bahous, expressed approval for the release of 50 hostages, exclusively women and children, as part of an exchange involving 150 Palestinian women and children. She highlighted the critical humanitarian pause accompanying this development during a briefing to the Security Council on the 22nd of November. Now, Bahous emphasized the alarming civilian toll, noting that since the 7th of October, the number of civilians and the deaths is double than that of the last 15 years combined. Take a look.
For your remarkable efforts during China's presidency. I welcome the news that 50 hostages, all women and children, will be released in return for the release of 150 Palestinian women and children and a much-needed humanitarian pause. 180 women are delivering babies every day without water, without painkillers, without anesthesia for C-sections, without electricity for incubators, and without medical supplies. Yet, they continue to care for their children, for the sick, for the elderly, mixing baby formula with contaminated water when they find it, going without food so that their children can live another day, enduring multiple risks in severely overcrowded shelters. They have been robbed of their livelihoods, of their security, and of their dignity. I reiterate my call from when I last spoke in these chambers in October, that every act of violence against women and girls, including sexual violence, is unequivocally condemned and must be fully investigated with the utmost priority. Now, more than ever, we must be faithful to our charter and to our shared humanity. Now, more than ever, we must reject those who seek to sow hatred and division. Now, more than ever, we must seek peace, and in doing so, recall that women remain the largest and most reliable constituency to that end. And now, more than ever, we must uphold principles of justice and accountability for crimes committed, to stop those that are ongoing and to deter those yet to occur.
In other words, today, the Gaza Strip is the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. We are particularly concerned by reports of increasing numbers of displaced children who have been separated from their families along evacuation corridors to the south, or who are otherwise arriving unaccompanied to hospitals for medical care. These children are especially vulnerable, and they urgently need to be identified, provided with temporary care, and giving access to family tracing and reunification services.
Well, now take a look at this, taking a look at some other international and global developments as well. Social media videos captured a vehicle explosion on the Rainbow Bridge. Now, the Rainbow Bridge connects Canada and the United States at the Niagara Falls, resulting in a plume of thick smoke and flames. Now, tragically, both the drivers and passengers lost their lives in the blast, whilst a U.S. Customs and Border Protection, a CBP officer, sustained injuries. Governor Kathy Hochul of the New York stated on Wednesday that a preliminary investigation has found no evidence of a terrorist attack in connection with the Rainbow Bridge explosions at the Niagara Falls. Take a look at this.
A vehicle exploded at the Rainbow Bridge connecting the United States and Canada at Niagara Falls on Wednesday, prompting authorities to close all 4 border crossings between Western New York and Canada. Media reports say 2 people in the vehicle were killed in the blast and 1 Border Patrol official was injured. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke to Parliament about the incident.
This is obviously a very serious situation in Niagara Falls. There was a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge crossing. I've been briefed by the NSIA and the Minister of Public Safety. CBSA, RCMP, and Transport Canada are all fully engaged in providing the necessary support. There are a lot of questions, and we are following up to try and get as many answers as rapidly as possible. We are in close contact with U.S. officials, and will continue to work closely with them.
The FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force was mobilized to investigate, according to New York Governor Kathy Hochul. Sources told Reuters early assessments indicated the explosion was likely caused by a reckless driver. Border agency officials in the United States had no immediate comment, while their Canadian counterparts did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Representatives for the U.S. State Department also did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the reported border closures.
And shifting focus to Netherlands, who are beating all predictions, the exit poll put Wilders' Freedom Party, the PVV, at 35 out of 150 seats, 10 seats ahead of the closest rival, former EU Commissioner Frans Timmermans' Labour Green Left combination. Now, Wilders' party's impressive performance garnered praise from nationalist leaders like Hungary's Viktor Orban. In a victory speech, Wilders vowed to bring an end to a tsunami of asylum and immigration. As votes are tallied, negotiations for the next coalition government will unfold, potentially taking months given the diverse political landscape of Netherlands. However, forming a broad coalition led by Wilders faces challenges, as leaders of other major parties have expressed reluctance to join a PVV-led coalition. After the 2021 polls, it took over 271 days to form a 4-party arrangement. Let's listen in to what the Dutch anti-EU far-right populist Geert Wilders had to say.
I'm in politics for 25 years now, and this is the happiest day of my life so far in politics. We became the #1 party by far. I mean, it's what a lot of people, if you would have asked them a year ago, would call you mad, and it happened today. So I'm very proud, I'm very happy, and it brings along a lot of feeling of responsibility. People expect our agenda of hope, tougher asylum and immigration policy, people getting more money to pay for their utilities and groceries.
Well, meanwhile, from a tumultuous few days for Sam Altman to a rosy outlook from NVIDIA, these are this week's big stories in artificial intelligence. Take a look.
From a tumultuous few days for Sam Altman to a rosy outlook from NVIDIA, these were the week's big stories in AI. He was out, but not for long. Sam Altman was ousted as OpenAI chief last week, only to be brought back days later. His departure sent shockwaves through investors, staff, and major backer Microsoft. What happened still remains unclear. The startup has long juggled concerns among staff about AI's dangers and its potential for commercialization. OpenAI got a board shakeup as part of Altman's return. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers is one of the new directors. The changes follow anger over Altman's sacking.
The future of AI will never be boring.
Understanding AI founder Chris Winfield says the pace of the week's events was bewildering.
Think about what happened over a news cycle of a weekend would have, in the past been like 6 months, So, yeah, it's gonna just keep going as fast as we've seen, and it's fun.
NVIDIA keeps beating forecasts. The AI chip champion again exceeded expectations on earnings and lifted its outlook above Wall Street predictions. But it warned it expects a steep drop in sales in China in the coming quarter due to vastly expanded U.S. export controls on what the company can sell there. Chinese search giant Baidu isn't too worried about that, though. It says it's stockpiled enough AI chips to tide it over for a couple of years, but it's also seeking out alternatives as it develops its chatbot dubbed Ernie. And Zoom says it's getting a boost from AI. The video conferencing platform says over 200,000 accounts have enabled its new artificial intelligence companion. It can provide features such as meeting summaries.
And moving on, in another development, American authorities thwarted an assassination plot targeting Khalistan terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. Now, Pannu was reportedly targeted on US soil. The warning of the foiled plot was also communicated to India. Sources familiar with the matter, speaking anonymously due to the sensitivity of the intelligence, did not clarify whether the plotters abandoned the plan amid protests in New Delhi or if the FBI intervention led to its prevention. The US Justice Leavement is debating whether to open the sealed envelope containing the indictment and make the charges public, or wait until Canada completes its investigation into Nijjar's murder. One person has been charged in the indictment and is believed to have left the United States. And shifting our focus to some climate change stories as well, Bolivian firefighters face a mammoth task to control the fires ravaging thousands of hectares in the north of Bolivia in Tuesday. Bolivian Defense Minister on Monday said that the fires have consumed over 3 million hectares of the Bolivian Amazon. Weather forecasts predict that heat waves for the next few days, which has prompted the president to ask for international help, will come on board to fight the fires. Just on Tuesday, 30 Venezuelan firefighters arrived in Bolivia, and the French President Emmanuel Macron announced 100 firefighters from France to be sent to the Andean country. According to the latest report from the Bolivian Environment Ministry, over 127,000 fire outbreaks were detected in the month of November alone. Meanwhile, in the small village of Sesklo in the central Greece, Vasilis Siametas has experienced the extremes of unusual weather this summer, turning Greece into a hotspot for climate change. Take a look at this next report for more.
From recent natural disasters in central Greece was clearly visible outside the home of Vasilis Siametas and his family in the village of Sesklo. After 2 rainstorms in September, a bridge across this stream was destroyed and water supply lines were uprooted. The family car was swept away too. But Siametas, who is a farmer and businessman, said that's only part of what his family has endured, as the area also experienced a wildfire in July that scorched their almond grove.
There is nothing else that can happen to me. That is, my fields were burned, my house almost burned down, 2 shops, the 2 businesses that I own were flooded, my house was flooded, I'm a flood victim. I don't have a car. What else can I say? There is nothing else.
The storms killed at least 16 people and turned the area into an inland sea, destroying homes, farms, and wiping out swaths of crops. Vasilis and the rest of his family were trapped in the house for 24 hours, but were not hurt. Their crops, including these almond trees, had already been decimated by the fire 2 months earlier that burned for 2 days. It occurred during a summer when Greece had its longest heat wave in 30 years.
The weather conditions were so bad, the wind, there was no humidity that day. The fire was moving fast. There was not enough time to do anything.
Tsiamitis said the trees need to be uprooted and new ones need to be planted. It will take them 5 years to produce a crop. It is becoming a part of life here as fierce storms and floods have become more frequent in recent years, making Greece a climate change hotspot.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Top Stories. Lots more continues right on the other side. Keep watching News9 Live.